Hello, happy Thursday everybody. It is June 3rd, 2021, and here we are again. 2021 has been an extremely good year for movies. I think out of everything I've seen so far, we're halfway through the year now already. And I think this might be the year where I've watched the most movies. And it's also the year that I've been the busiest. So now, I've pretty much been working non-stop, and my rut pretty much has been to watch a movie, after work every day at night. So I've been going strong, got a lot of stuff, still got a lot of stuff coming too, so there won't be any shortage of these for those 5 of you who enjoy watching these, so got that going for us. Now lately, you noticed 2 updates ago I started going through all the James Bond movies. Well, I began, at least, the ones I hadn't already seen. And since then I've been on a huge 70s kick. So you're going to see a lot of 70s stuff in here. I'm definitely, like usual with me, there's no shortage of just random crap with all of this. So stop wasting time with the formalities, and here we go. The first one is a one and only VHS tape of this update. This was given to me by a friend of my grandma's who was like, "Oh, you like movies?" I was like, "Yeah." And he just gave me this tape. He said, "Oh, here you go, have this." So I said, "Okay." A Few Good Men. I had seen this before, so it wasn't like my first time viewing of it or anything, but what can I say about this that hasn't already been said? It's A Few Good Men. You Can't Handle the Truth, with an awesome cast, not only Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore, but you got Kevin Bacon, Kiefer Sutherland, a whole bunch of people in this. One of my favorite things to come out of this, if you Google this, you'll probably find it. There's a meme where someone took this poster, and it's A Few Good Men, and all the characters are played by John Goodman. Part of me really wants to see that cut of this film, but as it stands, it's A Few Good Men. I don't think that one needs much introduction. Now this one I got recently because I thought this would be perfect to head into the summer season. I'm always a sucker for these summer vacation, coming-of-age style stories. So I figured, I vaguely remember the trailers when this one was coming out, but I never looked into it much. I was just like, oh, okay, that's something, but never investigated it too clearly, and then I found a copy of it used for a few bucks. I was like, hey, summer's here now, let's check it out. And it's The Way, Way Back. And for the most part, I like this one. It doesn't do anything different as far as these summer vacation, coming-of-age style stories. It pretty much checks all the boxes you think it's going to. It reminds me a lot, whenever I think about this style of movie, I always think of that Simpsons episode. Summer of 4'2", I think is the episode. If you want to know what I'm talking about, just watch that episode. You'll get the whole vibe for these summer vacation style movies. There's one called Ping Pong Summer, came out of, one was okay. But this one was good, the Sam Rockwell is the best part of this movie, though, because you have the main kid who's very shy, very quiet, and very overly awkward, on purpose. It's to serve the plot. But I was, after a while, it's like he's really not that charismatic of a lead kid. He's just awkward for the sake of being awkward. Whenever Sam Rockwell's character Owen is in this, he completely steals every scene, to the point where I would much rather watch a movie entirely about him and his character than anybody else. Because you get the family drama. His mom is played by Toni Collette. He's got an asshole stepfather played by Steve Carell. And outside of that, it checks all the boxes you think it's going to. But whenever Sam Rockwell is there, his character, his charisma steals the show, and it makes the movie worth it. It was good as it was, but he definitely elevates it. So, you're getting a pretty typical summer vacation movie here, but Sam Rockwell definitely elevates it. It's a nice, heartwarming, happy watch. Alright, my Vinegar Syndrome release for this month, I was excited when I saw they were putting this out, because I had this old DVD, bare bones, the picture quality was not that good, and strangely enough, the soundtrack was different. For some reason, that copy I had on DVD didn't have any of the original songs, or yeah, it didn't have the popular songs from the soundtrack, but thankfully this Blu-ray has the right soundtrack in, and it's All American Murder with Christopher Walken. As soon as I saw this, I said, oh, I know I gotta get that. It's such a weird... It starts out almost like Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, where you just got this kid who... This came out in 1991, and his wardrobe just screams it. He's been kicked out of all these schools, he sleeps with the dean's wife, and you watch it, it's like, okay, this just feels like they're setting up an Animal House style. But then it turns into this weird whodunit murder mystery. But then on top of all of that, you have Christopher Walken's character, and his character in this is just... If you want to see a good movie with Christopher Walken just being his weird, typical self you've come to love, then this is definitely it. His introduction scene in this is amazing. When he stops like a hostage situation at a gas station, and the way he does it is just insane. He eats pickles out of the fridge for no reason. This movie is nuts, but I love it. It's got some really randomly graphic kills, one of which I'm not going to show it because I don't want to spoil it, but one of it's just on the back of this, you know, on the back of that cover. And it's, you know, features, they got a commentary track with The Hysteria Continues. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming it's fun. And an interview with the lead actor, Charlie Schlatter. So this is, you have to be a fan of bad movies to really get into this one, but this one's a riot. You know, it's so weird and off the beaten path that it's a pretty worthwhile watch. And the song by Tony Sciuto, Out of the Darkness, is awesome. So I recommend it if you're a fan of the bad movies. If you're, I say bad, but this one's fun. Like, this isn't entertaining. You'll be laughing at this one and just going like, what the hell? Mainly thanks to Christopher Walken and his amazing character. And if you like him, yeah, definitely give this one a shot, because it's pretty amazing. This one, sadly, I did not like. You know, I've been collecting a whole bunch of Paul Walker movies. I'm trying to go through all of them, you know, with Paul Walker. And this is one I knew nothing about, so I was... And the plot, it sounded cool. It sounded like a cool chase movie. Sounded interesting. So I checked it out, but it didn't... Vehicle 19. I mean, the gimmick with this is that the entire movie takes place from the inside of this rental car that he has. I'm like, okay, well, cool concept, I guess. I mean, it's been done before, you know, like Frozen. It's a movie where the whole thing takes place with 3 people on a ski lift, and it managed to make it interesting. This doesn't. The action is terrible. It's a lot of the way, because you're being filmed from inside this car, so you don't see any of the... You see it all from, you know, the POV of Paul Walker, but for a movie watching experience, that's really not that interesting. And the way it's filmed, the cinematography here is terrible. The editing of the action scenes is terrible. Like, whenever there's car chases, you can't tell what's happening. The storyline is paper thin, lame, and makes no sense. Yeah. I generally like most of these Paul Walker movies, but this one, Vehicle 19 didn't do it for me, guys. Sorry to say on that one. And same with this one. I didn't know what the hell to expect out of this when I bought it. And I've watched it now, and I still don't know what the hell it was. Like, it's this movie called Mom. And as soon as I saw this, I've got a VHS over there of a movie called The Granny from 1995. Totally stupid, but funny movie. That's what I mean, it's called Mom. Look at this cover with the grandmother-ish figure sitting there. And ironically enough, Stella Stevens is in both that movie and this one. Her character in this is actually pretty fun. I don't know what the hell this movie was trying to be. It tries to be like a silly plot, but it takes itself so seriously that you're really not having too much fun with the story. Because I'm like, okay, I could see they're trying to make some jokes here, but it's not they're playing it too seriously. And then, like, especially when you get to the third act and the ending, it tries to be this really sad, thoughtful story about loving an older relative and knowing you won't be there to save them forever. Like, okay, well that's a very poignant message to have in a movie, the way it mashes everything between trying to be like a silly B movie while taking itself so seriously, while at the same time, like, they either should have gone more dramatic with the whole thing, or they should have been really silly with it. Because as the only saving grace I will give it, Brian James is in this. You're a movie fan, you know who Brian James is, and his character in this cracked me the hell up. Like, he's talking like this through the whole. He's only in the first half hour, but when he's there, he is chewing the scenery so hardcore. Like, his character had made me laugh, but a lot of missed opportunities. They were trying to do too many different things at once, and it just didn't translate well. Sorry to say. It was weird. Like, I wasn't bored. I was sat there the whole time. I'm like, well, this is one hell of a movie. Same with this. I just got this solely based on the title and the poster here. Blastfighter. You can tell just by looking at this is going to be one of those cheesy Italian knockoff action movies. And it is. It's really not that great. It's pretty dumb. You know, lots of special features on here, which is good. I haven't really dug. I watched the interview with the star, but it's a typical revenge kind of storyline, kind of like First Blood, where it's taking place in the woods. It's an Italian action movie. As soon as I say that, you pretty much know what it is. I will say, though, this does have one of the funniest final shots I've seen in an action movie. Because it makes sense when you watch the film, that the ending shot. So, yeah, I'll give it credit for that. The ending shot made me laugh. I mean, if you just want some Italian schlocky action with really not much substance and some very over-the-top, I'm assuming, dubbing, Blastfighter will get you a few different chuckles. Last Blu-ray, I gotta say, I watched this one with my dad. Neither one of us had seen this before, but we ended up really loving it. It's a 70s, this is the beginning of my 70s kick here. Big Wednesday, starring William Catt, Jan Michael Vincent, and Gary Busey. You know, adding on to the Gary Busey, every update I try to get a Paul Walker movie, and I always get a Gary Busey one. This was the Gary Busey one of the update. Perfect summer film. This is a coming-of-age story done right. You know, you follow these three surfer guys and their lives and the things that happen when they get drafted into Nam, and one of them gets married, and it's from like 1962 through 1974 is when the storyline. So it kind of jumps, you know, a timeline a little bit over a period of time. And Robert Englund is actually in this as the narrator. And he pops up throughout the movie, too, but he's actually the narrator, which I didn't realize that was him narrating it until after when I looked it up. Gary Busey is playing Gary Busey, which is exactly what I wanted. He's still his usual quirky self in this. Yeah, it's a very, you know, it gets poignant, it gets, you know, thought-provoking at times. You really like seeing the storyline of these guys develop. And it's got an ending that's strangely terrifying. Like, if you're afraid of, like, water and drowning and shit, like, the way the ending of this is filmed is like, oh shit. So if you love the 70s, if you love that retro Americana from, like, the 60s to 70s, if you love that whole vibe, I recommend this incredibly highly. This was a fantastic film. Yeah, I really love Big Wednesday. It gets my utmost recommendation. Moving on to the DVDs now. Most of these I got used for a few bucks a piece. Like this one, I had heard of this for a while, I just never took the time to really invest into it. And it's Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. It's a type of comedy that would only exist in the early 2000s, where it's extremely crude, extremely just, it pushes the limits at every chance it gets. It's crazy, it's all over the place. It definitely, it's not rated, so when it says extreme unrated, they really mean it with some of the shit that happens in this. And Neil Patrick Harris is a lot of fun. I know there's a few of these Harold and Kumar films now, so I may have to, you know, I will proceed with caution, because this one, it had me laughing, but at the same time I'm like, oh shit, like there's a few scenes in this that I'm just like, ugh. But it's crazy, and it's refreshing to see something like this that really did not have an agenda, because that's what comedy is nowadays. Everything has like an agenda and a message to it. This is just fucking ridiculousness, and that was refreshing. So, yeah, especially if I don't know if there is a rated version of this or not, but this unrated, you'll get your money's worth out of Harold. And I need to see Guantanamo Bay now. That's the next one. Now this one is a 1996 movie about what happens when your sports obsession goes too far. And it's a strangely thrilling, very good film with Robert De Niro and Wesley Snipes called The Fan. I caught a little bit of this on TV, and I was like, ooh, this is actually pretty good. So I went out, I found the DVD for it, and I watched it, and I'm like, that was pretty damn good. I've noticed I've got a lot of luck with these sports thrillers, whether it be The Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis, Night Game with Roy Scheider. There's a couple of those, like thrillers centered around sports. So apparently that's just a winning combination. And this was no exception, where Robert De Niro is an obsessive fan of, the, what fucking team was it? The Giants. Huge fan of the Giants, and Wesley Snipes is a new player that's been drafted onto the team, and there's all this kind of politics involving his jersey number, because Benicio del Toro also had that jersey. So there's a few different kind of little story. There's a subplot involving this journalist. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And, by the time it gets down to it, Robert De Niro, who else but him is good at playing these unhinged maniacs? The Cape Fear remake from '91 is still awesome. Like, he's great in that. He's great in this. There's even, you look up videos on YouTube, compilations of how many times in there he says the name Bobby, which is Wesley Snipes' character. Hey, Bobby! Hey, Bobby! Yeah, Bobby! Which is funny. The ending and the way everything kind of gets resolved left me wanting a slightly bigger climax. I mean, what we get is fine. Like, it's a satisfying enough conclusion. It's just, I was wishing for something a little bit bigger. Like, and maybe that's just The Last Boy Scout, because this isn't an action movie. This is a pure thriller, So don't be expecting Wesley Snipes to hit baseballs in anyone's head or anything like that. But though that would make for a damn good movie. I like Wesley Snipes, but yeah, great thriller. If you haven't seen this one, it's great. And then following that up, we have a 1996 film about what happens when your obsession with sports gets taken too far. It's this movie called Celtic Pride, or Celtic Pride, however you want to call it, because it's about the Celtics, and it's the main reason I got, there's two. One, the cast. I'm like, I really like Daniel Stern, I really like Damon Wayans, and I really like Dan Aykroyd. Triple D, I guess. And, then I read the plot of it. I saw the cover sitting there. I'm like, oh wow, I never heard of this before. I like all three of them. And I read the back here. I'm like, what's this about? It's the plot of The Fan, but a comedy version of it. So I went back to watch this, and strangely enough, while the whole basis is the same about these two guys who are overly obsessive about their sports, the movie is actually a lot more like Saving Silverman than it is The Fan. So imagine if you took the concept of The Fan but applied it to Saving Silverman. That's this. I mean, it works because of these three guys. The movie itself is not that great. Like, there's nothing too memorable about it. You can tell there's lots of sports cameos and everything in there to keep people happy. I'm sure that's the target audience they were going for. It works because of if it was anybody else but these three, like if this was a bunch of no-name actors, there would be nothing to this. It mainly works because of the three of them. So if you watch The Fan and you're like, I wonder how this would be as a silly comedy. Well, there you go, Celtic Pride, whichever way they want to go. There's some funny stuff in there, though. Like, they heavily play up the tropes of, like, sports rituals. Like, oh, wait a minute, you weren't wearing that shirt when they won last. You were wearing this other shirt. Or, no, wait, you sat to the right of me, not the left. Stuff like that. And trust me, I've got relatives like that. Like, oh, no, this has to be on the table when we watch the game because, or else they're going to lose. You know, I'm sure we've all got experience with that. Then next up, we get to this edition of the James Bond. Now, my experience with the James Bond, you know, my dad grew up as a huge Sean Connery, Roger Moore fan, and I watched a few of them when I was a kid. Mainly the Sean Connery ones, as well as A View to a Kill, were what I saw when I was a kid. So Roger Moore and all the other ones that came after that, I really didn't have any experience with. So I've gradually been going through them now, and so we got 4, and I pick up these MGM special edition DVDs just because these are the ones, you know, they've all got the same spine and the same kind of cover to them. So I've been sticking with those because those are the ones we always had. So I like to keep a consistency to them. And so basically, I had already seen A View to a Kill. So what I have here is the rest of the late 70s and the 80s output that I had not yet seen. Because I had a License to Kill a couple updates ago, already seen A View to a Kill, and Moonraker was in there. So now I've got 3 Roger Moores, 1 Timothy Dalton. We've got The Spy Who Loved Me, which is great. Yeah, this is a pretty highly revered one. A lot of people love it. Good reason. It's good fun. It's the introduction of Jaws, Richard Kiel, who is awesome. There's an amazing scene in this involving the car on the beach that I was laughing my ass off at. Like when that car comes out of the water. Now, this was essentially remade into Moonraker, and you could tell there's a lot of the same beats with the story because originally this was supposed to be followed by For Your Eyes Only, but because of Star Wars, they said, oh no, we got to jump on this train, so they rushed Moonraker into production after this, and it basically hits all the same story beats. Moonraker, you know, it gets sillier by the end, but a lot of parallels between the key plot points. But they don't let that. I like both of them. I like Moonraker and I like this one a lot too. So yeah, Spy Who Loved Me is great. Now this one, and then following that, I had already seen Moonraker, so next up was For Your Eyes Only. I went into this with almost no expectations because I don't remember a lot of people really talking about For Your Eyes Only. This is one you never hear mentioned a lot. I don't remember seeing this cover, poster a lot. I didn't know anything about this one. So what I'm about to say, I don't know how popular or unpopular of an opinion this is. I've made my way entirely through pretty much from the 60s to the 80s now of James Bond. This is my #1 favorite James Bond film so far out of all the ones I've seen. This just hit all the right notes for me. In my opinion, this is the one that has the least downtime to it. There is literally always something happening. Even some of my other favorite James Bond films, there are still segments where it gets a little talky and drawn out. But this, there's no downtime, there's no wasted moments, it just goes and goes and goes. There's one fun scene after another. You get the opening scene that ties into On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Side note, that is my #1 worst James Bond film. I hated George Lazenby. He ruined that fucking movie. I hated On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's, up until the skiing stuff at the end, that is a film that's very boring. George Lazenby couldn't act this way out. I hate that film. But I'm glad that they followed it up here with the awesome opening scene involving Blofeld. It's so silly, so fun. It's very rewarding to see Roger Moore, who is my favorite Bond. My favorite Bond is Roger Moore, and it's good to see him finally taking out Blofeld in a good way like that. And the Bond girl is my #1 favorite Bond girl, because I don't know how well this will pick up, but we call her my wifey. Literally, I saw the movie. It gave me that inspiration to get that part. I wanted to see if they had one of her with the crossbow. No dice, though. Couldn't find anything like that. But yeah, favorite Bond girl. I like her storyline. I like her arc. She's not just a damsel in distress. She's an actual character with motivations and intent. And it's a more low-key film compared to Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me, which are both insanely over the top. So yeah, everything about this one, this is my #1 favorite Bond film. So I love it. And even this one, I know this one gets a lot of hate, Octopussy. It takes a while to get going. For like the first hour, my interest in it was really waning. But by the time you get to all the shit involving the circus and the acrobats and Roger Moore on the train, he's dressed as a clown, he's in a gorilla suit. There's too much silly shit not for me to love. Or when he's in the jungle and he's doing the Tarzan thing, and he literally is talking to a tiger. I can't hate it, you know. I love my cheesy, stupid shit. And the entire second half of Octopussy gave it to me. I mean, you even have that guy with the yo-yo buzzsaw. He was awesome. Like, he should have been a bigger part in this, because he's got potential to be a great Bond villain. But I didn't even hate Octopussy, you know. I had dumb fun. It took a while to get going. I was worried at first, but once it got going, it was good. And then The Living Daylights, which I was surprised by how much I really liked this. Like, I like License to Kill, I like Timothy Dalton, I will say he's definitely a very underrated Bond. This one's got an awesome soundtrack, namely the 2 songs by The Pretenders, Where Has Everybody Gone, and If There Was a Man, 2 great songs. Great storyline. I like Miriam Dabo, and Joe Don Baker's a lot of fun in this. I know he comes back, I think, in the Pierce Brosnan films as a different character. Those are next on my hit list for James Bond. This has just, again, there's not a lot of downtime. You have the one guy from Die Hard, you know, I have a machine gun, ho, ho, ho. He's in this as the main henchman who kills people by strangling them with a Walkman headphones and exploding milk bottles. Cool finale on a plane. Yeah, this one's probably in my top. This one's definitely top 5 for me too. I was surprised by how much I really liked The Living Daylights. So we're doing good progress with my way through the James Bond film. You know, For Your Eyes Only, my favorite was Live and Let Die. But as soon as For Your Eyes Only came about, that one sniped it. Just everything about that movie. I sat here watching it like glued to the screen. I just loved it. And then continuing with this 70s theme, we got some 70s car foo. What? Seriously, is there anything better than these 70s car movies? I grew up loving Cannonball Run 2. You know, Roger Moore is great in that. There's a movie from 1978 called Stingray with Chris Mitchum that's really good. So now I finally dove in. I got the first 2 Smokey and the Bandit films. I've been told the 3rd one is god-awful and not to waste my time with it. So I'll take their word. This is just eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. We got a load to get. Like, how can you not love Smokey and the Bandit? You got Burt Reynolds as the Bandit, Jackie Gleason, Buford T. Justice, Jerry Reed. How can you not love it? And Smokey and the Bandit 2 is even sillier. It's even crazy. They got Dom DeLuise. You know, it's all part of the Hal Needham cinematic universe between these, Cannonball Run. I still need to see Hooper, Stroker Ace. There's a couple I still need to get to, but I mean, these are just pure fun. Smokey and the Bandit 2 is even funnier to me with the elephant and when you meet Buford T. Justice, when you meet the 2 brothers, it is, yeah, it's a lot sillier. So this one is the perfect blend of action and comedy, whereas this one, the comedy is a lot sillier, but the action is also way more ramped up. Like, the whole ending with all the semi-trucks in this is awesome. Yeah, I love both of these. I've heard the 3rd one is terrible. I know it stars Jackie Gleason. Knowing me, I'm a completist. I'm still probably going to end up getting that at some point. But as it stands, these 2 are amazing. Like, what else do I need to say about those? And same with this. This is another one. I've known the plot, and I've known about this one for a while. I just, you know, never got around to it. And then I finally found a DVD used for a few bucks. I think it's on Blu-ray now with Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry. But I got Race with the Devil, which is, it's a 70s car foo movie, just like Smokey and the Bandit, Cannonball Run. You know, take all those movies and you blend it with a horror film. So you've got Peter Fonda, Warren Oates. It's Peter Fonda, so of course there's motorcycles and, you know, bikes involved. where Loretta Swit is in it. Warren Oates is awesome in this too. He's such a typical, just asshole, not asshole, but, you know, stuck up, typical American, you know, consumerist dude in this with this RV. A lot of this film is just a commercial for the RV, too, which is funny when they first introduce it. You know, oh, look at this, it's got a color TV, a microwave with this. Like, there's so many points in there where they're just selling the RV, which made me laugh. And it's great, you know, the horror stuff is really well done, where you have a satanic cult. You have R.G. Armstrong in there, which the fact he's in there, you pretty much know he's not going to be a good guy. And then it blends this horror satanic cult stuff with 70s kung-fu action, which is a mix that shouldn't work, but does. Like, this is a highly enjoyable. And the stunts in this are amazing. Like there's scenes where the car is driving on 2 wheels for such an extended period of time, and there's another one where the car flips and it tumbles. I think they even said they broke like a world record with that stunt, with the amount of times this car just keeps flipping and tumbling over itself. It's truly awesome. And, you know, there's an interview on here with, you know, rest in peace, Peter Fonda. Great interview with him talking about the film. There's some audio commentary with the executive producer and one of the 2, Lara Parker. She played one of the wives. Yeah, this is a great one. I really liked Race with the Devil. It's definitely, if you love the car stuff and you want to see some horror mixed in with it, you know, Race with the Devil, you know, it's fun. It hits a lot of the 70s tropes, especially with the way it ends. It's, you know, kind of leaves you at that ambiguous 70s, you know, cliffhanger trope that so many of the 70s things did. But yeah, awesome, you know, awesome. If you want to see some great car stunts with some good suspense and thrills, it gives you the best of both worlds. This was a complete blind buy. Samuel L. Jackson Big Game, which is a blind buy. The DVD was like $2. Come to find out, the DVD here is only the theatrical version, and if you want the unrated version, you gotta buy the Blu-ray. There was a film in the 80s called Quiet Cool with James Remar. It kind of reminds me of this, where you have a very stuck-in-your-way older character teaming up with this survivalist youth in the woods to take down a team of bad guys. Fundamentally, it's not that good of a movie, but I do enjoy some of the ideas with it. There's some fun scenes. Samuel L. Jackson does not phone it in. Like, Samuel L. Jackson puts his all into this performance as the president, which is fun. It's fun to see him as the president. He tells a story at one point about pissing his pants that's just like, okay, where did that come from? The kid, you know, it's a Finnish movie. It was filmed in Finland. Or it's supposed to be in Finland. I don't know if it was actually filmed there or not. It's low budget. It would have benefited immensely from being rated R. It's, like I said, this DVD is the theatrical. You got to get the Blu-ray if you want to see the unrated. Because, you know, Samuel L. Jackson has a motherfucker in here, but it gets censored. It's mother, and then it cuts away. And I was sitting there watching, I'm like, what? So you got to buy the Blu-ray, I guess. I mean, if you like dumb action movies, there's a lot of tropes. It mixes stuff like, picture like Air Force One mixed with a smidge of Surviving the Game, and you've got this big, you know, it's dumb, but its heart is in all the right places, and it does succeed in some scenes. Like, it's not boring. Like, you'll be sitting there. It was refreshing to see a dumb action movie like this again. You don't get very many of these anymore. So this, because action movies nowadays, that's the problem with them. They take themselves so seriously, and they're all the same. It was nice to see something like this that took a purposeful, campy approach to it. And Samuel L. Jackson, you know, he pulls it off. Ted Levine is in that too, strangely enough. Great monster creature feature film right here, The Relic. I've heard about this one for a while. I've been wanting to see it for a while. Finally got around to it. You know, Stan Winston and all his visual effects team did an awesome job with this monster. I think originally in the 90s there was supposed to be like a Sylvester Stallone movie like this called Isobar, which I wish that would have gotten made. Like, if it was as good as this, that probably would have been awesome, seeing Stallone in a film like this. But as it stands, this is great, you know. It's very tense. It's filmed entirely here in Chicago at the Field Museum, which is fun. It's always fun watching something like this, and you're like, hey, I've been there. It's been years since I've been to the Field Museum, but it was great, you know, watching this, pointing out all the filming locations. They don't call it the Field Museum in this, which it would have been hilarious if they did. But, you know, it's got Linda Hunt, who you've seen in Kindergarten Cop, If Looks Could Kill, Tom Sizemore, and it doesn't pull back the punches. There's a lot of gruesome. You know, the monster has no preferences. When people get killed, they get eaten, their brains get sucked out, and it keeps things tense. It really moves along when they're making their escape from the museum in the tunnels. At the end, it gets tense. Especially for something that came out in 1997, which was when you were in the peak of the Scream era of films where everything was about upper class teens and everything was very serious, self-aware. It's been a while since we've seen a good old-fashioned monster movie like this. So I'm hoping we can get more similar movies like this to make a comeback, because I miss stuff like this. My only complaint with the movie, there are some scenes where it's just filmed too dark. I don't know if that's just this copy or the way it was shot. There are some scenes where it's too darkly lit. Like, you could tell what's going on, but it's kind of, you notice, it's like, this is really dark. I wish I could just see a little bit more. But that's a small gripe, because as it stands, fantastic creature feature. And this was $1. I didn't even open it yet. You know, coming off William Catt from Big Wednesday. You know, believe it or not, I'm walking on air. It's 4 episodes of The Greatest American Hero. I haven't even opened this yet. I've never seen the show. It seems like something I would like, so I'll be curious to dive in and see what it's like. But yeah, I just know the theme song, so we'll dive into that soon, see how it is. And then I got the 3rd season out of 6, I believe, of Superstore, which out of the first 3 seasons, I'll say this is probably the funniest one yet. You know, I've obviously liked the show to keep. You know, I went to season 2 and now I'm at season 3. So obviously I like it, I like all the characters, I love the setting, I have a background working in retail, I worked at Sears for 3 years, so a lot of the humor does land. And this is probably the funniest season yet with the episodes, so that's a good thing. So we're going on an upward trend, which is nice. Now that we're familiar with all the characters, we get to see where everything goes. The only downside is that I believe the show just ended with the series finale of season 6, and as it stands, seasons 4, 5, or 6, none of them have been released on DVD yet. I guess the show is on Hulu. I have Netflix, I have Discovery Plus, I do not have Hulu, and I'm not going to get it just for Superstore. So hopefully at some point they put out either like a complete series DVD or they release 4, 5, and 6 on DVD, because again, like, it doesn't end with as big of a cliffhanger as Season 2 did. Season 2 ended with one hell of a cliffhanger. This one does still end on a fun cliffhanger. It's like, oh geez, what's going to happen next after this? But none of the other ones are on DVD, so I'll have to look, see if I can find either bootlegs or... Hopefully they put them out, though, because if they keep putting this out, I'll buy them. Because it's a fun show. I never watched it when it was on. People recommended it to me for years. Especially during the time I was working at Sears, everyone, oh, you gotta watch Superstore, you gotta watch Superstore. So, okay, and then finally I got season 1 on DVD, and since then I've been going through it. I've been liking it a lot, so Superstore is pretty good. I just hope I'll be able to find the rest, because I want to keep going. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching my movie collection update, DVDs, Blu-rays, 1 VHS for June 3rd. Got a busy summer ahead, lots of stuff going on, so hopefully you'll be hearing some different things out of me soon. Yeah, thank you for watching, take care, leave it in the comments down below if you like any of these, if you disagree with me on any of these, probably. So, thank you for watching everybody, take care.